In the early 2000s, working as a taxi driver wasn't just a tough job. It was a real school of life. No GPS, no smartphones, just a map in the glove compartment and your own wits. Times were tense back then. Old cars, all kinds of clients. Strange or aggressive people often came along. I had enough experience not to fear night shifts. But after one incident, my attitude toward the job changed forever. I usually started my shift closer to midnight. At that hour, cities seemed to come alive with their own separate life. Rare passers-by, dark windows in houses, dim streetlights. That night, around 2002, I was waiting for clients as usual at the parking lot by the park on Severnaya Street. There were few customers. A cold autumn wind seemed to drive people home. The car was warming up, and I was listening to the radio. All that came through the bad signal were crackles and static. By 2 a.m, I was thinking of ending my shift and heading home, when I noticed a figure in the rearview mirror. Someone was slowly walking toward my car. He looked strange. A long coat, a hat hiding his face, and a thin build. Normally I avoided such late-night clients, but something about him drew my attention. He walked up to the door and got in the back seat without asking. I looked at him in the mirror, but his face remained in shadow, as if he had deliberately sat that way, trying not to show his tension. "Where to?" I asked. "To Lesnaya, house 17. He replied in a quiet, steady voice, almost a whisper. Lesnaya Street was on the outskirts of the city, away from main roads. Almost no streetlights there, and even during the day, people rarely went that way. The place used to be a dacha area, but over time, people gradually moved out. Crumbling houses, overgrown lots, a desolate place, unpleasant. Without asking anything more, I started driving. We rode in silence, and the further we went, the stronger my unease grew. The city streets were left behind. Darkness lay ahead. A winding road, lit only by occasional lamps. The passenger sat motionless, and I began to feel his gaze on me, catching it in the mirror from time to time. His face was still hidden in the shadow of his hat. The farther we went, the more jumbled my thoughts became, as if a swarm of useless ideas had started buzzing in my head, like something was pressing on me, making it hard to focus. Suddenly, the passenger broke the silence. "Turn right," he said. His voice echoed strangely in the cabin. I turned onto a narrow dirt road leading to an abandoned summer house settlement. There was no lighting at all, and I began to doubt we were going the right way. In the mirror, his figure remained still, which only added to my anxiety. "Stop here," he said, when we reached a small bridge over a stream. I stopped and looked around. Fog and darkness. The houses were only silhouettes. A wave of fear rose inside me. Is he really getting out here? "Wait for me a bit," the passenger said, and stepping out, disappeared into the dark. I was alone. The clock read 2:30 a.m. I turned on the cabin light and nervously watched the mirror. There was only darkness around me. Somewhere water trickled and night birds made rare sounds. Waiting became torture. Each minute brought a growing sense of danger. Inside, everything screamed, "Leave!" 10 minutes passed, and then I saw the passenger emerging from the fog, but he wasn't alone. Next to him walked another figure. A woman. Her movements were slow and unnatural, as if she were half asleep. They both approached the car, but the passenger didn't hurry to get in. He stopped short of the door and looked in my direction. "This is my wife," he said, and his voice sounded like it came from another world. "She always waits for me here." The woman raised her head, and in the headlights I saw her face, pale with empty eye sockets. I screamed from the shock, slammed the pedal, but the car stalled. I tried to start it again, but my hands were shaking. The key turned, but nothing happened. At that moment, the passenger quietly stepped up to the window, looked at me, and said, "You promised to wait." I somehow found the strength to start the engine, and thankfully, it roared to life. I hit the gas and sped off, leaving them behind. My heart pounded so hard it seemed to drown out the engine. The forest blurred like a nightmare as I raced toward the main road. When I finally reached the city center, my knees were shaking, and my fingers couldn't hold the steering wheel. I stopped at the nearest cafe, got out, and began inspecting myself in the car. Everything seemed fine, except one thing. On the back seat lay a hat, the same black hat the passenger had worn. In the morning, I met up with a friend who knew that area. I told him everything and showed him the hat. He turned pale and said, "Listen, that house on Lesnaya you mentioned, 20 years ago, a whole family died there. The man killed his wife and hanged himself. People still say their souls can't find peace, and at night, they wander those roads where they were found." "But that's impossible!" I shouted. "I saw them! They were alive!" My friend just shook his head grimly. "You saw what they wanted you to see." Since then, I've never gone back to that area. I changed my car, but the feeling that someone is sitting in the back still haunts me sometimes, especially when the fog settles over the road and the only sound I hear is my own breathing.